Hi everybody, it's April. I'm going to share the cards that I've made so far using the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit from August. I apologize I wasn't able to get 10 cards done, but I did want to share what I've gotten done so far with you guys. This first card, I wanted to use the backer sheet, and the other side I couldn't really utilize because I couldn't get the tape off and it was like right in the center. So I went over it with some static powder just so I could use this panel and it wouldn't stick to everything. I decided to use the little boy on the moon. I flipped this panel around to where I thought it would look nice on the image as if he's up in the sky and fishing for stars. So I'm going to have a lot of problems with this stamp and the panel. I don't know if it was because it was glossy. I don't know if it was because I didn't clean my stamp first really well. I'm trying to do that here, but it was super sticky. And then I put a lot of powder on this glossy, it's kind of like a glossy card panel that they use to attach our stamps and dies. So I'm not sure what the problem was, but I could not get an image, a solid image. And I saved you a lot of the stamping. I left a lot in, but I probably stamped this 6 times trying to get this image solid. And then you'll see it's going to cut to me using that actual scrap sitting on the right because this just didn't work out and I got so frustrated. So I don't know what I did with this part of it, but I left it in just to show you. Also, another big no-no is don't try to put your embossing powder back in this way. It was all over my desk. And even though I used static powder, there was so much that stuck to the cardstock. So I think because I haven't had my humidifier on downstairs for the last couple of days, there was just a lot of moisture in my room. So maybe that was it. I don't know, but you'll see a lot of mistakes in this video. Sorry about that. So you can see I decided to switch over to this other little piece I had left, and I stamped the sentiment. They're a little close up of what I was going through. Mind you, I've already stamped this image about 7 times. So here is me with the sentiment, and I finally just said, you know what, I'm going to try to fix this as best I can. And I went in with a Sharpie marker. It did smudge a little bit on the fishing line. Either I touched it or it just smudged when I was stamping. But so here I'm going to take the Sharpie and just fill in the little boy. I don't care about the smudge on the moon because it's the moon, but I wanted the little boy to be solid black. So when I lift it up, you'll see he is solid and there was the smudge. I went in off camera and stamped 3 stars to cover that smudge. And I got smart and got me a little scrap piece of paper to put my embossing powder back in the jar. Oh my goodness, was I being lazy? I had a lot of problems with the first 2 cards. I was really struggling. You guys know I haven't been feeling well, so I apologize, but I still wanted to share some ideas. You could really take any image in the kit and, die cut it out. You wouldn't have to stamp it on this surface like I did, but I just thought it was a good way to use the backer sheet. So I wanted to, and that's what this card is about. I was thinking about using the ribbon, but the blues don't really match. I don't have any dark blue cardstock. I noticed when I was doing that panel, I really wanted like a blue cardstock, but I'm very limited to what kind of cardstock I have. So I did black, and I'm just using my cutting tool from Fiskars to score down some black cardstock. Excuse me. I just embossed with an embossing folder these little white dots. I didn't want anything distracting from the main panel. I'm so sorry. So it's just little white dots, and I think it's a Doris embossing folder. So that's kind of what my game plan is there. You can see I've already stamped the 3 stars on the fishing line, and the sentiment is there as well. And then I'm going to take some stickles, and I couldn't find my just clear crystal. I think there's 3 different kinds you can get that have different kind of colors, and I think the crystal is the one it doesn't really have any colors in it. But I wound up using the diamond one, and even that one was really too much color for me. So you'll see here I wound up just using the stickles in the center, but that got smudged. It would have been cute had it turned out like that, but it didn't. So there you see it, now you don't. That got set over on the side of my desk, and it accidentally got smushed, so I had to fix that at the end. But here's the 2 sprays from the kit. I'm using the blue and the gold, and just always want to use a box if you're doing sprays like that. I showed you a little sneaky peek of the gold on dark cardstock. It's absolutely gorgeous. But be careful with the spray. I did mention this in another video about when you heat emboss or try to heat anything that has that gold spray on it, it might smoke up. So make sure you're in a ventilated area. I actually didn't use either one of these stenciled images that I did because I just, again, with the color, trying to color coordinate, I don't have anything dark blue in my stash as far as cardstock. So I did cut the panels down. I let those dry overnight and they're absolutely beautiful, but they didn't get used in this video. So just disregard that. Here's the little sheep that are so sweet. And I think it's funny because Amanda at 23 Tangerines, she did a couple cards, made a video doing a couple cards with this kit as well. And it's funny, we both wanted to use the sheep. That was like one of the first kind of cards we made. And she also used the little boy on the moon and the backer sheet, I think. But it's so funny. I'll link her video down below. It's funny how we all kind of, you know, gear towards certain things in a stamp set. And her and I both went towards these sheep. So anyway, I'll link her video below. It's so sweet. And she's a great artist. I did these clouds as well, but they're not going to be used. I wound up using a different cloud on the stamp set and just heat embossed it in white. So it's just a solid white puffy looking cloud. And it was about at this time that I realized all of my ideas for that stenciled background weren't going to be what I wanted. So I changed directions and I went with a gray card base, and I wanted to use the other paper that came in the kit. So there I was watching Victoria, her little dog, on Instagram. Anyhow, so there's some Recollections vellum, and I'm using some Stick It. I haven't really ever worked with Stick It before, and I'm going to make a little panel to go on the front. Here I'm still thinking I'm going to use that stenciled paper. I'm just wanting to tone down, you know, the stenciled image with some vellum, so I adhered the Stick It to it. And I'm not sure when, but I will, like I said, switch directions and go with a gray card base, and then I'll disregard these panels. Here we go. Okay, so that paper there is in the kit. It's just really beautiful. It looked like clouds to me. It's beautiful shimmery tissue paper. So that's what I decided to do with these sheep. I just wanted the whole thing to look like, you know, clouds and the little sheep. And so I still stuck with the vellum, so I could put that over top and adhere the little sheep to that. Put that panel down on top of my card base. And when you're working with Stick It, this is probably the first time I've honestly used it with vellum, and I didn't realize I was using the wrong side. So all of this that you see me doing right now will have to be repeated on the opposite side, because I didn't realize I was doing all of this on the Stick It side and not on the vellum. So anyway, a little tip there Betsy had given us is, if you find that your stamps are sticking to you when you're trying to use your fingers or your fingernails to adjust it, just use a little bit of that static powder on your nails and on your hands so it doesn't stick. It was a great tip. Thank you, Betsy. So I'm just going to heat set this. I should have known there I was on the wrong side because it didn't warp the vellum. I'm going to use my Xyron sticker maker to just get some adhesive on these little teeny tiny images. I'll go around that with my bone folder just to make sure the adhesive only sticks to the little tiny, you know, images that I put in there. So I'm going to make some stickers with that. And I'm going to put all of this on the vellum piece, but again, remind you that I'm doing it on the wrong side. So double check, make sure you're doing it on the right side. It all worked out fine. But I just want to take a moment to say thank you all so much for your support. Thank you all for subscribing, liking, and commenting my videos. I really appreciate it. I really want to say thank you to everyone who has reached out to me about my health situation. So far, so good. I just have to start taking some thyroid medication. But as far as we know so far, all the other tests are coming back healthy, and I'm fine. So thank you so much, guys. I do start going in tomorrow with the back doctor, so I'll be off and out of YouTube for a little while, but I should be fine, you know, within a little, like a week or so. So if you don't see me online or on YouTube, not online, I'll be on Instagram, but if you don't see me on YouTube, that's why. I'm just taking a little break while I'm seeing the back doctors. Okay, so there I adhered everything to that tissue paper that's so pretty. It's hard to photograph these things, but it's really gorgeous. So, you know, you can see it through the vellum, and that's what I wanted. I really wanted it all to look like these sheep were in the clouds, you know. So I'm going to take some matte medium and adhere these little glitter stars that I have. I think it was in a Martha Stewart 3-pack or something a long time ago. And that's what I added to that card. I'll show you all the cards up close at the end. This is another piece of pattern paper in the kit, and I decided to cut out some of the circles and make a shaker card. So I'm just doing that. I was initially going to try and figure out a way how to make something inspired by the eclipse. We wound up not having a total view at our house. We were like at 99%, but it was still enough that we couldn't really view it because we didn't ever get any glasses. So that was a little disappointing, but we still had a nice time. Anyway, that was my initial plan for this card. You can see that little stamp laying on my desk there. That's what I was going to try and create with that, and just stamp it around with some like bright yellow embossing powder, and then a black, like a black circle I cut out in the middle. But I decided to do a shaker and leave the windows open. I'm using Wow silver embossing powder to stamp the sentiment that says we're all made of stardust. Just thought that was so sweet, and that's a really fine embossing powder. Like, it's like dust. I noticed that when I was putting it away. So I'll heat set the sentiment, and I'm going to cut it out with an MFT stitched circle die. Now, the die was solid, so you can't really, I think I like set it off a little bit. It's hard to tell. But anyway, so that's what I did with the sentiment. I cut it out separately. Here I'm just taking my Versamark pad and just kind of smushing it all over this little panel. I'm using some Ranger holographic embossing powder that is really hard to work with. It's really hard to see from the naked eye when you're sitting at the table if you've melted it or not. And make sure that you hold it up to the light and kind of tilt your card. Might want to do it over your trash can because the glitter just goes everywhere. It's so fine. I thought I had heat embossed it, but what you can see on camera is totally different than what I could see. I really couldn't tell all those little spots that I missed. So when I was working with this, I got glitter everywhere that was loose. So just again, make sure you do it over your trash can or something and tilt it as best you can to see where you've melted it or not. But once I got it melted, it was fine. So there it is, really beautiful. Hard to capture on camera how sparkly it is, but I like it. Anyhow, so I'm just going to trim this down to fit behind that panel. And then I'm also going to cut some acetate down to go behind it as well. And then turn this, like I said, turn it into a shaker. I didn't want a really thick shaker or anything because I knew I was just going to use those same glitter stars. But it's a little tricky getting tape around all of those little circles. So I just found the best I could, some tape that I have, and just really was finicky. I spared you a lot of the putting tape on this panel because it was, you know, hard to get around the circles. And you wanted to make sure that you did your best to seal up around those circles. So I'm like trimming and cutting and all kinds of stuff just to get adhesive on the side of this panel. But I prefer using tape when I'm working with acetate because I just find liquid is just too finicky. It can, you know, kind of smush. Even if you try to be careful, it still tends to come off in my experience when you're using liquid glue and acetate. So fast forward to me putting all the tape everywhere, and then also I'll go in with some 3M foam tape. So by the power of magic and YouTube, I just went ahead and finished that, adding all kinds of stars because I just love it. I love this paper and I love these stars. Be careful when you're taking off the release paper. Don't let your fingers or your nails touch that foam because believe me, all the stars will go flying if you try to pull your finger off of that tape. Anyhow, so that's really about it. I'm going to shake a shake. And I'm going to add the sentiment down at the bottom. Again, when I went to die cut it, I couldn't see if I was centered, so it's a little off, and that's why I added another extra little star on the sentiment. And that's really all I'm going to do with this card. And just put that on my card base and put the sentiment on, and that's it. I'm going to stamp the back of it as usual. And that'll be it for the last card. I apologize again that I don't have more cards ready, but I was editing all this footage today and I thought, you know what, let me go ahead and get this up on YouTube. So, you know, maybe you guys can take little pieces of the cards I made and do what you'd like. So here's the 3 cards. I went in with Black Nuvo drops to cover up the mistake of smushing the other stickles. Here is the one with the little sheep, and all of a sudden you're going to see a little baby spider crawl across my scissors. Look, there he is. That's the last card. Thanks for watching.